flying, keep knocking on the door, keep a knocking. That's the beauty of ground school. We don't have to worry about the weather.
No, it's, I think it's like 50,
Yeah, it's supposed to clear up tomorrow. Maybe we'll do some tomorrow. Maybe you'll teach it to me anytime. All right.
Mind if I,
Eights on pylons. Yeah.
It's everybody's. Just grab it. I don't care.
Is this yours or we had it here?
No, sorry.
It's missing a couple of wheels.
Here. You impress the instructor.
Ah, Constellation, right? What is this?
Have it?
It's a multi-engine tail dragger.
Constellation? What is this?
Yeah. No, it's a Lockheed, this is the one that Emily Hart crashed.
Douglas or something?
No, it's a Lockheed.
DC-3 or something?
Lockheed,
It says Beach Model 18.
yeah,
Beechcraft.
Beechcraft.
Beach 18.
The tail wheel, instructor likes it.
Yeah, nice little bird. Teach me tail wheel eights on pylon. Does it matter?
Same aircraft, in the aircraft.
Yeah, when it's in the air, it flies like anything else. It's only the ground handle.
Yeah.
Use a church.
No. Actually, he put 152 on the board, so it has to be 152.
Yeah, exactly.
With the 152 have top windows?
4 windows?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does.
Does it have 4 windows? On the side?
Yeah, it has, yeah.
152 has a rear window light up?
No.
Ah.
No, the back is 4.
No, that's 4 windows on the side. See? 2 on each side.
I think it's a 172.
That's a
Yeah.
172.
Yeah, this is the one, for this lesson, it's a 172. That's it.
Okay.
Let me get this airplane. 1, 5, 2. 1,000 above, 500 below, 2,000 distance.
Alright. Ready, steady?
Anybody has a timer?
Yep.
Excellent. He's well ahead of us.
Okay. No, this. It's this. It goes on this.
Go on your bar.
Alright, 1, 2, 3,
Action.
action. Today, we're going to be talking about eights on pylons. That's how it says it in the TPS. We're going to start off, what is a 8 on pylon? Eights on pylons are
Is it a recording or no?
is when we make circular paths around a pylon and in either left and right turns. However, there is no attempt to make, so what is eights on pylons? Eights on pylons is when we make circular paths on a pylon, left and right turns in the form of a figure 8 across the ground. That's why it's called eights on pylons. However, no attempt is made to have equal distance from the pylon. We maintain a airspeed and altitude that from the horizontal line from the pylon is parallel to the lateral axis of the airplane, to the pilot side. The horizontal, so we maintain a specific airspeed and altitude that gives us a horizontal line that parallels with the airplane's lateral axis to the point of to the eye of the pilot. So why do we do it? Because of orientation, division of attention, self-awareness, and it's actually one of the hardest ground reference maneuvers that there is. It says it in the airplane flying handbook. So it requires a lot of of skill on the part of the pilot. So, how do we do 8s on pylons? 8s on pylons. So, the coordination, orientation, division of attention, self-awareness, personality. How do we do it? Well, the first thing is we want to clear the area and do the pre-maneuvering checklist. Now, when we do that, we want to select 2 pylons that are on the ground that are perpendicular to the wind. Okay? We want to select a suitable landing area just in case of emergency. And we want to enter crosswind. Okay? We want to pick the pylons approximately half a mile out from each other, and we want to enter as I drew it out from over here. We want to enter a crosswind and to make the first turn an upwind turn. So, we did the pre-maneuvering check. We check for obstacles. It's very important and critical that we check for obstacles before we pick the pylons. And I checked basically what is the pivotal altitude for the Cessna 152. It all depends on the airspeed. So I did the math beforehand, and the pivotal altitude will be 900 feet. It's going to be 105 knots. So I'll talk about that later. So enter on the downwind, crosswind, and right when you see the pylon ahead of you, ahead of your line of sight, you're going to want to initiate that bank and put your upwind wing on the pylon. Again, your hand is on the controls, one hand on the throttle, and you want to put your feet on the rudders to maintain coordinated flight. So you put the upwind wing on the pylon, and this is, at this point, you're going to be downwind. So the wind is going to push you. So again, we're not maintaining a given distance. All we're doing is just putting that, your horizontal reference point, your line of sight, on the pylon. So we're pivoting, you see that, like we're pivoting around that pylon. So over here you're going to be at the highest speed, which means that this is going to be your highest pivotal altitude. The faster you go, the higher the pivotal altitude is going to be. So throughout this maneuver, your altitude is going to constantly change because of your ground speed. Okay? So over here it's going to be, you're going to climb in order to, you're going to see, if you don't make a correction over here, right, and you're not going to climb because your ground speed is getting higher, you're going to see that the pylon is going to go back of the reference point. So we're going to see, so that's why we're going to have to bring that back pressure to just enough so that your pylon comes back to the reference point. As you approach, as you get to this part of the maneuver and you keep on that pylon, when you continue the maneuver, you're going to come over here, and since the wind is coming to upwind over here, right? You're coming upwind, you're going to slow down the ground speed, right? The pivotal altitude is based on your ground speed. So since you're upwind, your ground speed is decreasing. What happens to your pivotal altitude? It goes down as well. So you're going to have to release that back pressure just enough to get that pylon back onto your line of sight, which is some point on the wingtip. It all depends on the plane you're flying. So the Cessna 152 is going to be on a specific point on the wingtip. Again, if you sit in the back of the airplane, in the back seat of, let's say, a 172, it's going to be a different picture. So it's only in the view of the pilot's eye, nobody else. Okay, so as you make a correction for your lowest ground speed, now over here you're going to be closest to your pylon. Why? Because the wind is going to push you forward. Not forward, it's going to push you closer to your pylon. So you want to do is, over here is going to be your maximum angle of bank, which should be no more than 30 to 40 degrees coming from APS. It says the bank angle should be no more than 30 to 40 degrees. So, you know, if you lose your if you're too high, if you see your pylon is looking from the left wing, again, it's from my line of sight. From my line, let's say the wingtip is over here, I drew it over here. This is your line of sight. This is correct. This is the pylon. The pylon is, let's say, over here. The pylon is over here. So what it means is that you're too high and you need to put that forward pressure so the pylon ends up over here. Because this is your line of sight. This is your line of sight. If the pylon is over here, it means that you're too high, you're higher than your pivotal altitude. So that forward pressure, so it goes back over here, and then you want to maintain that pivotal altitude. Okay? And if the pylon creeps back over here, then, or more extreme, let's say over here, then you want to gain altitude and let that pylon come over here. So if you gain, you increase your back elevator pressure, you bring your nose up and gain altitude to your pivotal altitude until you see your pylon get back into your line of sight. Now, as you get over here, you do the same. So as you roll out, you want to roll out diagonally and also maintain a wind correction because the wind is pushing you. So you want to have that right angle so you can enter the second pylon at a good angle. You want to be straight and level flight 3 to 5 seconds from when you roll out over here until you initiate your first bank. Again, you initiate your first bank just like the first pylon. Initiate the second pylon, the bank, when you see the pylon just ahead of your line of sight, your horizontal point. So 3 to 5 seconds of straight and level flight. And then you initiate your bank, and you do the same thing just as you did for your first pylon. Okay? So, again, you want to be coordinated flight. You don't want to be in the slip or a skid. You want to make sure the ball is centered at all times. And it's very dangerous to use cross control. Just a moment. Okay, so now you're going to, and so so as you do your second pylon, you enter it just as you did on the first one. do the same thing, and you want to depart on the side. You want to depart just as you came in. That's the way how you want to depart. So you came on down, you also want to depart down. Okay? Then you do your climb, and what's on the maneuver stop. Now, completion standards. It is a good satisfactory knowledge of the elements of ASON pylons, determine the approximate pivotal altitude ground speed. So, now I'm getting more in detail about the on determining pivotal altitude. So it's ground speed squared divided by 11.3 for knots. If you want to get pivotal altitude per miles per hour, you divide by 15. So if you don't understand this, that's afterwards. Select suitable pylons that will permit straight level flight between pylons. That's what I talked about. Enter the maneuver at the appropriate altitude and airspeed, and at a bank angle of approximately 30 to 40 degrees at the steepest point. Devise attention between anchorage, coordinated airplane control. So at the same time when you're doing this, you also want to look out for traffic. Hold pylons, avoiding slips and skids. Common error is faulty entry procedure. The entry is not crosswind. Poor planning, orientation, visual attention, or uncoordinated use of flight controls, which means that if you see your pylon is forward ahead of you, and you're taking to the right, you're going to put left rudder, and you're going to cheat a little bit. Again, that's very dangerous, and you're not doing the maneuver correctly. So you want to just be in coordinated flight. Use improper line of sight, reference, application of rudder to maintain line of sight, which is a common error. So just let you know. Improper planning for turn entry, and rollouts. So you're rolling out too soon, too late. Improper correction for wind drift between pylons. Again, you're finishing the bank too early or too late, and abrupt control usage, selection of pylons where there is no suitable emergency landing area or in gliding distance, and also for obstruction. So, to wrap it up, to summarize, what is ASON pylons? ASON pylons is when we're making circular paths around the pylons, and in the form of a figure 8 across the ground, and basically there's no attempt to maintain a specific distance from the pylon. Rather, we are maintaining the airspeed and altitude so that we're forming a line from the pilot's view that is parallel to the lateral axis of the airplane. So it seems like we are pivoting around that point. Oh, and also one quick thing I forgot to mention, you want the pylons to be at the same altitude, altitude above ground level. Okay? Also, it's to mess things up for you. And why do we do it? Because it improves coordination, orientation, visual attention, self-awareness, and overall makes you a better pilot. Okay? That's it. 16, 17.
Question time or no?
Yeah. If you have any questions, go.
The distances between the pylons. How do you determine distance?
So, as I said, approximately you want the pylons to be separate approximately half a mile between each other.
Half a mile?
Yeah.
It doesn't determine on the airspeed of the aircraft?
No, selection of the pylons, you want them to be approximately a half a mile.
Always a half a mile? It doesn't matter?
Right.
Okay. Initially you said we're going to maintain altitude and airspeed in this maneuver.
No.
Yeah, initially that's what I heard. I don't
You
know.
maintain the airspeed and altitude
That's what you said. Maintain airspeed and altitude. You didn't say that.
No. You're varying airspeed and altitude, but you're maintaining an airspeed and an altitude that it seems from the pilot's eye or horizontal distance that is parallel with the airplane's lateral axis.
Okay, so you put the wings on the pylon basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
In the Boeing 757, it's not going to be on, the wing isn't going to be on the pylon, but it's a line of sight from the pilot's eye directly to the pylon, horizontal line that is lateral with the airplane's lateral axis. Okay?
Good.
So you're putting the wing, let's say in the 152, you're putting the wing on the pylon, and you're gonna have and there's no correction for wind or anything. You're basically gaining altitude because your ground speed is
Yes, but you said like a speed of 105 knots, that's what you said,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And a pivotal altitude of 900. Where do you reach a pivotal altitude?
right. So the way how I determine my pivotal altitude.
No, but on the maneuver itself, you maintain 900 all the way throughout the maneuver?
No.
So where do you hit 900? Or how high can I go, how low can I go?
You're gonna see that once you put your wing on the pylon, your reference point on the pylon, and you just put the wing on the pylon, and you're gonna realize that if you're gonna realize over here at high speed, high pivotal altitude, you're gonna see that if you're not gonna do anything about it,
So when I
and
enter the
just putting
maneuver,
the wing on the pylon, you're gonna see that you're gonna, and the pylon is on the reference point, you're gonna see that you're gonna gain altitude because your speed is increasing.
yes, but what I'm asking is, what altitude do I enter the maneuver? 900
Not
feet?
900 feet.
105 knots, right?
Yeah.
So that point there, high speed, high pivotal, that's maximum speed there should be 105 knots, 900 feet, correct?
No, it's the ground speed.
Yes, ground speed.
Yeah.
105 knots, 900 feet should be at that point, right?
When you're entering the maneuver.
When you're entering the maneuver, but when you're turning, first turn,
Yeah.
what's your airspeed and altitude?
No, the airspeed is always the same.
Airspeed,
105 knots, unless you're at such a
So
bank angle that
altitude
your
changes then.
Your airspeed, yeah.
And how does altitude change? You gain altitude or you lose altitude?
Gain altitude or lose altitude. You gain it says high speed, high pivotal altitude. As you turn into the wind,
Yeah.
you come here, 105 knots, everything's normal, right? You initiate your first bank. Now, what happens to the wind is giving you a faster ground speed, right? What's happening here, pivotal altitude, it's also increasing. Remember, high speed, high ground speed, high pivotal altitude. So you're gonna have to climb higher in order to keep your pivotal altitude. Or else you're gonna see that,
So I have to climb higher there to maintain 900 feet. That's
yeah,
what you're saying.
yeah, you can see. And by the way, you should cross-reference your instrument during maneuver. But yeah, you basically put the wing, you put the pylon on the reference point,
Do me a favor.
and
Do me a favor. 2 pylons. And another drive.
yeah.
Show me what happened.
Where's your pylon? Where's your pylon?
Pylon 1, pylon 2.
Or pylon 1 and pylon 2.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Wind's
Where's the
going
wind
that
coming?
way.
Okay, so you want to enter a crosswind. Oh, an obstacle. You can't do
The
it.
wind direction.
Wind direction.
Okay.
See the arrow?
Yeah,
Wind coming in
Great.
towards me.
Great.
Right? That's
Yeah.
You want
Okay.
the wind this way.
Yeah.
okay. So you check for landing area within gliding distance, no obstruction.
Right there is the field, open field there.
Awesome.
Be careful, there's a railroad here with a train moving, so. don't-
Short field, short field.
Exactly. Oh, watch out, there's an airplane already landed here, so maybe we have to go to this gate.
Okay, fine. Fine, so crossing over here,
Mhm.
you wanna enter where your first turn is gonna be, you wanna enter like this.
Mhm.
The first turn is gonna be ahead of him.
Yeah.
So you right away high ground speed
Uh-huh.
because the wind's pushing you, right? So if you're here or
Whoa,
here.
whoa, 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 first thing, what?
I said
I'm very confused, where's the first turn, man?
the first turn
So first
is
right
going
turn,
to be into the wind.
first into the wind. But it's gonna be a right turn and then a
Right
left.
turn where you can
And then the
enter
park.
over here, a left turn,
Oh, either or, doesn't
either
have
a
to
left
be.
or a right.
Oh, okay, either left or right, okay.
So you, so it's a half a mile right in between them. You want your pylon approximately over here,
Mhm.
where it's just across your line of sight.
Mhm.
You initiate your bank.
Mhm.
Now, your line of sight is on the pylon.
Mhm.
Now, as you get over here, your ground speed increases because of the wind. So what happens is, let's say, so you have to increase your altitude
Uh-huh.
in order to maintain that low altitude. You have to increase your altitude in order to, in order for your pylon
Mhm.
to remain on your point, on your to remain horizontally on your point, on the reference point.
Okay.
And as long as you keep your pylon on your point,
Mhm.
you're gonna realize that over here,
Mhm.
your ground speed is what?
Lower?
Exactly. So what happens here for the altitude?
Decrease?
Exactly. So you realize that it's gonna be lower
Mhm.
just by putting your pylon on your reference point.
Okay.
Remember, it's an outside visual maneuver. So it's gonna happen by itself. I mean, you cross-check the instruments,
Mhm.
but yeah, that's what happens. And as you get over here, what happens is the wind is pushing you closer to your pylon,
Mhm.
but you don't make any
Correction?
correction.
Okay.
It's not turning around the point. So I mean, your bank angle is steeper.
Uh-huh.
As the closer you are to your pylon, the more bank you need.
Okay.
So it's going to be maximum 30 to 40 degrees
Uh-huh.
over here.
Mhm.
And you want to roll out over here,
Mhm.
3 to 5 seconds,
Mhm.
right when you cross the pylon, 3 to 5 seconds of level flight.
Mhm.
In the same way how you entered over here, you want your pylon to be just ahead of your point.
Mhm.
Initiate the bank, and again, your downwind is going to be it's giving you a higher ground speed. So what happens with the altitude is going to increase it
Mhm.
and maintain that pylon on your reference point.
Okay.
Right? You're going to be constantly changing your altitude.
Okay.
There's a whole on pylon.
So where do I hit 900 feet? Here?
Yeah, you enter at approximately 900 feet, you initiate that bank, and
Mhm.
whatever correction you need,
Mhm.
well, initially you're going to gain altitude because over here you're going to be at a higher ground speed. So you're going to, the first thing is you're going to gain altitude
Mhm.
in order for the pylon to be at a reference point. So you do the same thing,
Mhm.
and you enter just as you came in.
Okay, so here when I exit, I should be at 900 feet.
If
up.
you, let's say you're entering here,
Yeah.
like that,
Mhm.
the second pylon,
Mhm.
you exit just as
Okay,
you came
when
in.
I exit right here, what's my altitude and speed?
When you exit,
Mhm.
it's going to be higher.
Higher?
Yeah, because you're leaving the downwind.
Okay, but you said maintain constant speed, right?
Don't worry about the speed. Because
So
it's
just-
always gonna be varying, always. Your ground speed is always gonna be varying. You're
So
talking about the
altitude and
ground.
ground speed can be varying.
Yeah,
So
always.
why do we choose typical altitude of how much? 900 feet per 100
Yeah.
knots. Why do we choose
Because if you try to enter at 2,000 feet,
that? Huh?
you're not gonna be able to do 8 on pylons. You
What
can't
if I
pivot
enter at
around your
2,000
point.
feet at
Not at
205
105
knots?
How long?
2,000 feet, 210 knots. 2,000 feet, 210 knots.
No, I don't think 8 on pylons is gonna work. Has to be at a.
Like a 747. I'm doing it
Here,
at 8
you see over here, it gives you a approximate table of airspeed and given altitudes. For every airspeed,
You
see-
can't do on a 747.
Why?
Because
you're
it's
high
not,
enough-
it's not a twin maneuver.
Oh, right, you're talking about PPS. So I'm saying every airplane, I mean, you can do.
Only airplane single engine land and airplane single engine seat. That's what I'm saying. You can drop 3 engines in
What about the
It's gonna be single engine
PC-12?
land.
What about the Pilatus PC-12? Can I do it on it?
Yeah,
Can I do it at 2,000 feet?
yeah, yeah, for sure.
I mean, yeah, you could take a check ride.
Yeah.
It's gonna be expensive check ride. Wait a second, where are they in there?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did I, do you have any other
But,
questions?
yeah, I mean, if it's, 200 knots, single engine, you're gonna be higher than 900. Well, look, put it on your formula. What's your formula? You have a formula?
Yeah, ground
Okay.
speed,
200
Okay,
square.
put 200.
200 square.
200 squared.
What is that, 40,000?
That's 200 square. That's
4,000?
40,000.
Okay.
I think it's 4,000. 200 times 200 equals
That's 4 zeros. That's 40,000.
40,000, okay? So 40,000 divided by
Let's do 15.
miles an hour.
Yeah.
Okay. 40,000 divided by 15. More than 2,000.
Yeah, what's 40,000 divided by 15? Just Google. 40,000 divided by 15. Doesn't matter. Okay, 40,000.
2.666.
No, let's type 40,000.
2.666.
Okay, you said 200,
40,000 divided by 15. 2,666 feet.
It's plus or divide?
3,539?
What did you divide by?
You said 200, right? 200
You
is
said
the ground
40,000 divided by 15.
Do 200 square, what you got?
200 square?
speed. 200 squared?
Is 40,000?
200 square.
40,000.
40,000 divided by 15. That's 2,666.
Listen, 15 is miles per hour.
Well, we're doing miles an hour,
11.3.
yeah, 200 miles an hour. Yeah, we'll go miles an hour, simplify it.
2,666.
So it's not. You're going faster, your pivotal altitude. So you could do eights on pylons at 26 knots. You're going fast enough.
I was reading up on 8 on
Columbia. Yeah. Says the 400, you can do over 200.
200 miles an hour.
On the sea level.
Yeah. Yeah, I was reading up on 8 on pylons, and the reason why you do it is the reason I just read up on it. They said for photography, you want that one in one place, and the other one is when for the gunmen to like shoot the people on the ground. Pretty interesting. Yeah, you were saying something?
Okay, revision. At some point. I don't know the maneuver, never done it before.
Yeah.
Okay, right. To enter on the downward. Anything.
Yeah, it's a wing angle indicator.
Yeah. Get crazy.
Enter
Sorry,
downward.
hold on, maybe something better here.
There you go.
Alright, perfect. Maybe that's gonna work. Ah, now you're talking. Perfect wind stop.
Yeah,
Enter down, right?
yeah.
At your critical altitude and speed. As you enter downwind, you make the initial climb, right?
No, once you see, you initiate your first bank,
Uh-huh.
once you see the pylon,
On your wingtips?
nope,
Where?
initiate your first bank. Once the pylon is, let's say this is the edge of your wingtip.
Yeah.
Once the pylon is a little bit forward of your reference line, reference line is, let's say, over here.
Uh-huh.
Just a bit forward, not too much, let's say over here even. Initiate your first bank.
Okay. So downwind, altitude, speed, at 105 knots for 900 feet. That's what we're doing now, right? Downwind. At the pylon, it's a little bit ahead of my wingtip, where's my reference point.
Yeah.
Make my initial climb, right? Now holding the wingtip on the pylon.
Yeah.
The pylon.
Now the wind has come.
Huh?
Now the wind has come.
It doesn't matter.
Okay, yeah, no, it's,
52 knots plus.
The wind does change.
yeah,
It's a constant variable maneuver.
yeah.
As I made my initial climb, I'm gonna put the wings on the pylon, which is whatever point of the wing I choose, right? It's my discretion, wingtip on top.
It's
You can put it
your
forward,
line
you can
of
put it
sight.
behind.
It's your direct horizontal
Uh-huh.
line of sight that is in the horizontal line direct from your eye
Mm-hmm.
to the pylon that is lateral, that is parallel to the lateral axis of the airplane.
Okay. Make my initial climb, put the wingtip, which is my direct line of sight in relation to the
It's your reference point. It's your reference point.
As I hold the wingtip on the can or pylon, initially I'm going faster, so I'm going to gain altitude, correct? Now as I come back headwind, I'm going to slow down, so I need to lose altitude to maintain my reference point to the line of sight. Coming back around, slow down, back, and then as I roll out, I should get count 1, 2, 3, and there should be pylon right from my wing, and do the same maneuver again, gain altitude, let's come back to the headwind, lose altitude, come back around, and then exit down.
Yeah. Your main focus, you're not going to really pay attention to, oh, when am I going to descend? When am I going to gain altitude?
All
It's
I'm
gonna
doing is
come
putting
naturally.
the reference point, my direct line of sight,
Exactly.
wingtip to the pylon.
Exactly. What happens when the pylon is ahead of you?
Uh-huh.
It means you're...
The pylon ahead of me means I'm too fast, I need to pull back, or I need to gain altitude where we right?
Exactly.
Pylon.
No. The pylon is ahead of your...
Yeah.
Then you have to lower your altitude.
Lower altitude, pylon is above or is ahead.
Look.
Pylon is ahead, lower altitude.
Yeah, I also used to get confused. But think of it this way. This is how this is the image of
Okay.
this is a wall, right?
Uh-huh.
And you're over here,
Uh-huh.
and the pylon is in back of you.
Uh-huh.
What do you gotta do? For what?
Okay.
What happens when you're over here, and the pylon is ahead of you?
Mm-hmm.
And this is your... Okay? And your pylon is over here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when the pylon is in back of you,
Mm-hmm.
you're in altitude,
Mm-hmm.
and when it's in front of you,
Mm-hmm.
then you have to
Lose altitude.
lose altitude.
Okay.
Fair enough?
So if I'm ahead of the pylon, I gain altitude. If I'm behind the pylon, I lose altitude. Correct?
You're behind the pylon, if you're line of sight.
If behind the pylon, lose altitude. If you're ahead of the pylon,
The pylon is
Yeah.
ahead of you. Control.
starting the fourth. Huh? Increasing.
Do you have anything else? Very happy with everything. What about you?
I have a question. You mentioned that the ground speed changes, but the airspeed remains the same?
Unless
Can you
you
explain
initiate
why?
the bank too much that it affects your ground speed. Unless that happens, your speed is going to be roughly, your airspeed is going to be roughly the same.
Confusing.
It's a little confusing, okay.
So what exactly is it?
What, like plus or minus 5, or you say, when you're doing a compound, your ground speed changes. When you're going downwind, you have more ground speed,
Yes.
then your pivotal altitude goes higher.
Right.
When you're coming up on the other side, into the wind, your ground speed decreases, and your pivotal altitude will decrease. AGL. It's the same pivotal altitude, but your AGL altitude will decrease.
Right.
What happens to your airspeed?
It's staying the same. Actually, since you're descending, then you can increase your airspeed just a little bit.
If you're going downwind and your ground speed is increasing, you gotta catch up with your pivotal altitude. So you're increasing your ground speed, your altitude AGL, as you're turning around. The airplane just fine. So your indicated airspeed has just decreased.
Yeah.
You're flying straight at level, and then you pitch up. You apply back pressure on the yoke and pitch up. At the
Agreed.
same power setting, what happens to your indicated airspeed?
Decreases.
Decreases.
Altitude increases.
You lower the nose, release that back pressure, apply forward pressure on the yoke. What happens to your airspeed as you're
Increases.
descending with the same power setting?
Increases.
Increases. So it's a constant maneuver while maintaining your pivotal altitude. Your indicator airspeed will vary depending on your climb or descent. The more the wind, the more your indicator airspeed will vary. And I believe you said on the presentation that the airspeed stays the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I was wrong, and thank you very much for correcting me. Yeah, so good.
I'm not sure. I mean, from me, when I fly the plane, when I pitch up, the airspeed always goes down if I keep the same power setting. And when I pitch down, the airspeed increases.
Right.
On a 152, the RPM goes up when I pitch down.
RPM goes up, you gain more power, you gain more speed.
And when I pitch up, the RPM goes low.
Don't go sheer flying by a plane.
His plane is a different ballgame. It's like a UFO. It just doesn't fly to any other airplane.
Yeah.
But it's common sense, right?
Yeah.
As you're going downwind, if this is your pylon, you're going downwind as you're increasing because of the ground speed change, you're increasing your altitude AGL as you're pitching up, your airspeed will decrease. Do we have to select the pylons before we start the maneuver, or we can just kind of do it?
Well, a good technique that Doran taught me is it's easier if you just take one pylon beforehand. You just make your first turn. You just pick one pylon. It's easier if you just pick one pylon. You do your first pylon. You do straight and level over here. You're going to the second pylon. And then you just put your wing down and you're automatically gonna find your second pylon. It's easier that way. You can just pick something up, okay, something's on the wing set, that's it.
Do you have to wait a certain time before you select that pylon?
3 to 5 seconds to 11, 3 to 5.
What is the primary flight control to maintain my pivotal altitude?
Your elevator.
Elevator?
Yeah.
Why does the pylons have to be at the same height? I heard you said the pylons need to be at the same height.
Because then what happens is, again, this is